How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be talking about Day of the Dead 2, Contagium. This is directed by Clavell and James Dudelson, and some of you may know those names as the people that also directed the infamous Creepshow 3, and I think between this movie and then doing Creepshow 3 shortly after, it's kind of a 1-2 punch that ended their careers, because after Creepshow 3, one of them has a movie on IMDb with no poster, and the other has a short, and that's it from these directors, and nothing after that. And yes, Day of the Dead to Contagium. Personally, I don't know what the difference is between a contagion and a contagium. Maybe I didn't have as good an education as I should have. I know it's supposed to be contagium because they say that once in the movie, but they never explain what it is, and it's a weird word to put on the front. But anyway, Day of the Dead 2 Contagium is a sequel to Night of the Living Dead, and no, I did not misspeak. The events of Night of the Living Dead are loosely referenced by a prologue with a zombie apocalypse taking place in the 1960s, but that's the only real connection to any Romero movie, is a few tiny references to Night of the Living Dead, and in fact, there are several things that work against this being a sequel to Day of the Dead, particularly the world is not overrun by zombies, and this is clearly, I think 2005 is when this movie came out, so no references to the world being overrun by zombies like in Day of the Dead. I don't know if there's any concrete references to Day of the Dead. There's a few subtle references to Night of the Living Dead, so I don't know why this isn't Night of the Living Dead 2 Contagium, but it's Day of the Dead for some reason. And yet, wrong part of the cycle too, I don't know. But anyway, in this movie, it opens up, there's a lab, but I think it's inside a hospital or something. The Contagium has gotten out, and several people are dying. A scientist gets a thermos, sneaks out a special vial, and is killed by the military, but he drops the vial, and it rolls into a ditch undiscovered by anyone. It's also worth noting that in this scene, the military is ridiculously good at getting headshots. I get that's the only way to kill a zombie, but you look at this, you're like, wow, they sent in some really good soldiers here. But anyway, it goes to years later, and a bunch of mental facility patients are cleaning up the grounds nearby. Now, at first you may think these are prisoners, because, you know, that's usually who they get to do this stuff, but no, they're at a mental health facility. One of them finds the thermos and takes it back to their group. Now, when he takes it back, at first he can't open it, then some other guy opens it, and then here's the part where you can tell this movie's kind of gonna go off the rails. He opens it, and you see that it's not a gas or a liquid, it's tiny little balls of sentient light that get out, and they get into our main characters. Now, there's a few problems with that. Yeah, the original the original Night of the Living Dead, it was implied that it was radiation from a space satellite, even though it wasn't spelled out directly. But sentient light creatures is a completely different thing. And also, you've just infected literally all of your main characters, but literally like one nurse, and it's hard to have a good, point of view when everyone's going crazy and you think the one nurse that didn't get the light is going to be like your main character now, trying to save everyone. But no, she's off to the side, and you just are watching a bunch of people go on this weird trip because, yeah, it gets weird after this. But anyway, it becomes a race against time trying to save them, or at least it would if the plot was focused. But random plot elements and problems just come up, and this movie is very disjointed and weird. Like, there are people that know from the past that's, one character in particular that still makes very stupid decisions, and there's a bunch of plot elements that go nowhere. But one particularly weird thing is in this one, all the main zombies have like a psychic link between them, which is never established in any of the Romero movies, and it gets kind of weird. And then, there's things like, characters getting into fights, and, they should be, properly restrained, but they're just running around, and I think, one of the side characters kills someone, and you're like, if you restrained her earlier, and there's no plan, and it's just gets incredibly off the rails. But, as they're wandering around, these characters are slowly losing their minds. It hits one of the problems that a lot of the worst of the Romero zombie spin-offs do, and that is it's a zombie movie with little zombies through a lot of it. The second half there are more of them, but the first half is just characters going on this weird trip, But eventually, when it gets to the second half, there is your, standard zombie fighting and whatnot. But yeah, there's lots of weird stuff, I do want to say, though, that this does take place in a mental health facility, and for all the main characters, it does a good job of showing that these are just normal people with, a problem they need help and are trying to get help with. And, for that I can definitely applaud it. However, that's just the main characters. There are some side characters, and especially some, extras that they simply told to act crazy, so there's that. And then it's also this thing where, it's a mental health facility, and all of the doctors and security are evil except for the main two, and, yeah, that's another cliche. But this movie, it's got a loose and rambling plot, and it's kind of wacky, and normally I could forgive it for being kind of wacky, but any investment you did have in this movie is totally betrayed by the ending. Now, I try to explain how I'm disappointed in the end without really spoiling it, and the loose way I can go about it is the female lead had this weird plot that kind of came out of nowhere, but at the end it's almost resolved. Two of the other characters were doing this word puzzle, and they solved the word puzzle, and it could literally mean everyone being okay. And, of course, things are kind of dire. The main character finds something that you think he could use to help everyone, but instead decides to, as things are getting better, just randomly send everybody to their dooms. And it is the dumbest ending, and then they try to use these book quotes to make it seem pretentious and smart, but it's not, and it's one of the worst endings ever. It's just really dumb, and they could have gotten out, and they were almost at a good ending, but for no reason, they get a bad ending. This happens, and I'm like, what? It just, after I saw it the first time, I just sitting there trying to comprehend, like, what happened, first of all, because it's not super clear, because the whole movie's rambly. But then when I was thinking about it, I'm like, why would the character do this? It's just the worst. And to be honest, this is one of the worst of the Romero zombie extended franchise movies. Personally, it comes down to either this or Night of the Living Dead Resurrection, and I think I don't like Resurrection more, primarily because of the thing that happens right at the beginning. You can see my review for it. But also, just me, I tend to enjoy, stupid movies that are bad more than serious movies that are bad. Because when a stupid movie's bad, it's at least got some entertainment there. But when a serious movie's bad, like Night of the Living Dead Resurrection, is just bad. But anyway, yeah, this is a weird and rambling film, and definitely not great. Romero Zombie Completionist, you got that going for you. And if you like weird, bizarre B movies, then you might check it out. But really, it's not really recommended. I guess you could have some fun with it, but not great. Anyway, for those of you who've made it this far, thank you for watching. And for those of you who've liked and subscribed, I'd like to give you a big thank you because you really do help out the channel. I'm going to put a playlist over here. It should be a zombies playlist. Anyway, I do about 95% horror on this channel, and I'll be back with more scary movies, more horror, and I'll see you guys again later. Have a good day.